What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're back doing another preview video for round 3. This one is for France versus Namibia, the hosts, going up once again. A bit of a tough game for France last week, going up against Uruguay, who really put them under a lot of pressure. France only taken that game by 15. Certainly put out a bit more of a B team than you'd be expecting going up against a team like Uruguay. But Uruguay came to play, and I think for big chunks of that game probably put the scare on quite a few of the French supporters. So going into this one, France needing a big shift up. Of course, as we do in these preview videos, we're going to check out the teams that have been announced to play in both sides on the weekend. Have a run through the team sheets, through some good picks, some bad picks, some thoughts on the game itself, and then finally, of course, giving a score prediction. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, help support the smaller channels on YouTube who enjoy talking about nonsense about rugby. Starting out then with the hosts of France. Now, after a little bit of a tougher game than they were maybe expecting to go up against Uruguay, France have made some changes. Not just some changes, they have put out the big boys. Now, Namibia have not done particularly well at this World Cup. They're 0 from 2 so far, and both games they lost have been relatively convincing, right? So I was expecting a bit more in line with the French team we got to see last week, but maybe with a couple of changes. This French team is big. They obviously are saying we need to stamp out all of the negative comments they were getting at the end of that game, which I don't really think were deserved. People were quite unhappy with the way France played, but I also think there was a bit of a testament to how well Uruguay played in that game. So France coming in with a lot of big changes for this one. Starting out in the front row, Cyril Bay makes his return to the French jersey. What a big bolster that is to the squad in terms of that front row. He'll be going in alongside of Malvaca and Antonio in that tight head prop position as well. So a solid front row for them. Still no Julien Marchand, of course, with his injury, but I have been impressed by Malvaca over the last few games. I think he's been pretty superb for France, so looking forward to seeing him get on in this one. The scrummaging for France last week, again, none of this front row was there last week, so it's a bit of a different, talking point, but they certainly looked, I would say, more dominant than Uruguay, but they still had some issues across the set piece as well, so they'll be looking for big improvements, but you have to say this as a front row is looking a lot more solid than the team we got to see last week. In the lock department, Cameron Woki remains in at 4, and Thibaut Flamand comes in the number 5 shirt. Came on from the bench last week. Didn't have as much of an impact from the bench as I was expecting. I was hoping they'd get the ball in his hands a little bit more, let him run. He's a very fast forward, along with his size and the power that he does bring. I thought maybe they'd bring him on later in that game. We'd steal a few lineouts and we'd see him with the ball in hand running. Didn't really get any chance to sort of run. He was being a lot more used as sort of ruck support, which I think was maybe a bit of a misstep, especially with the teams we get into fatigue later on. If you're bringing him on, let him use the speed. Let him get a little bit into that game. And then in the back row, Francois Course comes in the blindside flanker. Charles Olivon returns to the open side. And Anthony Gelon comes in the number 8 shirt. So no Gregory Aldrit. Maybe they're considering injury issues along the way. I mean, they've put out a pretty monstrous French team, to be fair, but they've still got probably the bigger game that they're going to be thinking about in the rest of this pool. No disrespect to Namibia. The bigger game they've got to focus on is also got to be Italy. As it stands, I would say France are massive favourites going in up against Namibia. If they go on to beat Italy after that, it's sort of job done. The qualification stage is already, they're going to be there for you going through into the quarterfinals and stuff. So that's the hard task. But they are risking the injuries in this game by putting on such a big team, so we'll see how it works out for them. In the halfback partnership, Antoine Dupont goes in alongside of Mathieu Jalibert. This is, probably the starting two now. Of course, Romain Ntamak still out, so Jalibert's probably your top choice at the fly half position. Hastoy, last week, not really having that much of an impact, not really beginning to show off. I would maybe like them to test the Jaminet Ramos angle in this game maybe and get to see if that could work with one of them filling in at 10, because Hastoy for me it's just not quite there in terms of the rest of the competition for that same jersey. In the centre position, Jonathan Danty comes back in alongside of Gaël Ficou. What a returning name. This French team has not only got stronger, but they are being bolstered by returning players from that injury. Jonathan Danty, of course, been out with a bit of an injury, had to miss that game against New Zealand. That was the one I was hoping he'd come back in for. Had to miss the second game last week. week. He comes back in for this third game, and hopefully his fitness keeps up, because what a superb player he is. Not only carrying the ball in hand, but defensively as well. In the breakdown, he just grabs onto the ball and just will not let go for anything. Expect some potential big turnovers from him this week. And then in the back three, Louis Bielbiari on the left wing, Damien Penaud on the right wing, and Thomas Ramos comes in the fullback position. Now, Bielbiari, a lot of people had him in the fantasy league. People were picking him as captain. Thought this guy's going to start to explode versus Uruguay, and struggled a little bit to get his hands on the ball. Did get over for his try, so there's a big positive for him. But I think he'll want to get his hands a bit more on the ball in this game. Going up against Namibia and seeing their performances so far in the World Cup, you would expect the French wingers to have a little bit more fun with this one, because we had Fainga Nuku and Caleb Clark playing Namibia last week. They seem to have meters to run for fun. Both of them scoring tries as well. So I can imagine potentially these wingers will be out for a bit of a field day in terms of the scoreboard. But a massive French team coming in, much bigger than I expected. I think Namibia could be, unfortunately, in for yet another long day. In terms of the replacements, then we have Bourgarit goes in alongside of Wardy and Aldegheri to replace that front row. You have to say, in terms of the performances we've seen so far, that starting front three looks like a much better front three, and you would understand why they're this way around. That's a starting front three that I think a lot of teams could be worried about as the tournament goes on. In the rest of the replacement forwards, then Tafai Fanua, maybe a little bit lucky last week to not get himself a red card, who'll be going in alongside of Boudouin to replace in that second half. Yeah, I was a little bit concerned maybe that yellow card could have been upgraded to a red card. What could that game have turned into had that been a red card and Uruguay had that extra man advantage for the rest of that game? I think it could have been a lot closer, or maybe even been a slightly different outcome in that one. And then in terms of the replacement backs, Kouliou goes back in alongside of Mofana, and Melvin Jaminet goes to the bench. This was another interesting choice for me here. Maybe I would have liked to have seen Jaminet play. Ramos is certainly there. He's going to be your starting fullback, for the tournament going onwards now. We know what he brings. He's a solid fullback. He works very well with all the other players. The way he pushes up to the line, his kicking solid. Jaminet's not had a great deal of time. And against a team like Namibia, you feel like it would be maybe a real big confidence boost to him to have him play, a good 60, 65 minutes of this game as well. Just land those kicking options. So when you get on to play, teams in the quarterfinals and onwards or something, any injury to that fullback position, Jaminet is ready just to step straight back in. I'm not really sure what they'll learn necessarily from this game by having Ramos play that game. Maybe they'll go for a half and half. We did see some of the other teams going up against tier 2 teams last week where they played, the big boy units coming on, but then at halftime took them off, put other replacements on just to make sure they are fit and healthy. Maybe I would have liked to have seen Jaminet play this one though, and had another good run out on the pitch. But overall, a really solid team for France. Like I said, I think unfortunately for Namibia, potentially some big score lines coming along. In terms of the Namibian team then, last week they played New Zealand and faced a bit of a battering. They only scored 3 points in that game, and New Zealand looked like they had the advantage for all of it. Unfortunately, it really looked like Namibia was struggling to do anything. Even players that have been impressing me a little bit from this Namibian team. Swanepoel last week, kicking was poor. Some odd choices with kicks as well. Not really going anywhere, just up and unders or just kicking it deep, kicking it back to New Zealand, who want the ball in their hand. They want to run with it. They want to get on with the game. So they'll be looking to try and improve some performances this week. And the way they've gone about that is to screw me over a little bit, because as you guys will probably know by now, some of these tier 2 nations that have come into the World Cup, I'm not the most knowledgeable on. I'm trying my best over the World Cup to learn a bit more about the players, learn what they bring. One area that really struggles in is when the team basically gets completely changed. So many changes for this Namibian team compared to last week. So all of my little notes that I wrote down about different players and how they were performing don't really mean quite as much this week. So we can have a little bit of a run through. Coetzee is the only remaining player from that front row from last week in the tight head position. Double change in the lock position for them. Gauseb is moving to the number 8 shirt after playing open side last week. A complete change of the halfback partnership. Theron and Lubser are going to be coming in. I don't know a great deal about them to know if this is a better partnership. But what I got to see of Swanepoel in the opening match, it looked like he had a good boot. It looked like he had a a good understanding of how to control the game, but it really deteriorated for me in that New Zealand one. We've got one remaining player in the centre partnership, Daisel. Of course, that captaincy for him. Berger coming back into the team, who I think played in the first week. I haven't got on my notes who was playing in that first week for them. And then on to the back three, only one player remaining. Mountain is returning in that right wing. We've got a change of the left wing. Grayling coming in this week, and Van der Berg will be coming in to that fullback position. So a lot of switching up. The fly half, Loopser, was the fullback last week, so he's playing at 10 this week. So we'll see what shift that makes for them, and see if that just gives them a bit more control around the pitch. And then in terms of the bench, quickly then, a lot of new names for me here though. Hardwick was playing 8 last week, and was trying to get them on the front foot. One of the few names that I feel like I actually heard the commentators talking about quite a few times over the course of the match. And then they've also got Rossou is now being on the bench as the replacement wing, who was playing left wing last week. So a lot of changes for Namibia coming into this one. Maybe they just weren't happy overall with the performances so far. They struggled a lot against New Zealand. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a monster French team. So even with all these changes, sometimes that can bring more mistakes than it was going to before. And then you're going up against a pretty monster French team that are most likely looking for a bonus point from that game, who won't be particularly impressed with their performance versus Uruguay last week. So in terms of a score prediction, well, I imagine France, with the team they've put out, are looking to just dominate these control areas. Now, the lineouts will get reinforced. Cyril Bay coming back in that front row means the scrum is going to be reinforced as well. Jonathan Darnty returning to that back line. Defensively, they're going to be more sound. Attacking-wise, they're going to be more sound. Biel Biarri will be looking to get his hands on the ball a little bit more, and I feel like maybe they should actually focus on him a bit more. We know what Damien Penaud is going to bring. He's going to be looking down that wing. He's get some little chip kicks over the top and outrun everyone on the field. I would like to see it shift out to that left wing a bit, and have him tested a little bit more, because Fainga Nuku last week was looking a little bit frustrated out on that left wing, not getting the ball soon enough. Caleb Clark was having a laugh out on the right wing, seemed to just not even be marked for big chunks of that game. So Damien Penaud could be finding himself in room of space, but hopefully Namibia will practice on getting over to that right-hand wing a little bit more to try and secure this one. I'm expecting France big here, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say France to win this one. I'm going to say 70. I'm going to go higher than maybe some other scores that people would predict for this one. But that's going to be my prediction for this one, guys. Make sure you're getting your predictions along with the fantasy team up on the Super Brew before the first game, that kicks off tomorrow on Wednesday, Italy versus Uruguay. There is a preview video out for that one already if you haven't caught that one already. And of course, drop your thoughts on the teams down in the comment section as well, because I always enjoy having a read through them all. I hope you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.